So friends, welcome to yet another video of Life Coach, and today we have a guest with us, Laura Lake. She's a high performance coach, an author, a speaker, and an entrepreneur. And we welcome her to our show. And I hope you're doing good, Laura.
I'm doing well. Yeah. Thank you.
I'm glad to have you here, right? Okay, so we begin with a very short introduction of Laura. I would like Laura to introduce herself in her own words.
Thanks. That's always a hard question. So my name is Laura Lake. I have a company called Sustainable Design. And what I do is I help heart-centered solopreneurs empower their mental health for higher performance. Mm-hmm. So I work with a lot of people with depression, anxiety, PTSD, and trauma that they don't even know that they have. Mm-hmm. So that they can change the 4 reasons that they fail into their 4 keys to higher performance. Yeah.
So you help your clients with their personal life as well as their professional life, right?
Yes. As a solopreneur, we don't really have much of a choice. Mm-hmm. That line has to be blurred because there's nobody else to make decisions. There's no other face of the company.
Right. Very true. Very true. Okay, so I would like to know, Laura, what has been your journey all these years? Okay, where were you born? What was your childhood like? And then how did you get into coaching? And how did you find this passion at this particular career?
Oh, so I was born in a very small town in Nova Scotia, Canada. Okay. And at the age of 5, I was really into architecture. So I did that for most of my career, but it was always based in sustainable lifestyles. So my whole life I was interested in health and architecture and how that whole relationship intertwined. I had planned on going to university to take architecture and took engineering to help me get into architecture, only to find out that they didn't have drafting. You know, where you actually draw out the plans. It wasn't part of their program. Mm-hmm. I'm like, why? So I left university second last in my class because, of course, halfway through was when I found out. Thought, well, why bother work? Go on to college, take the drafting course that I wanted, and graduate second in this school. Right. So that's the power of mindset. From there, I was in an architecture company until 2014. And in 2011 was the moment that changed the rest of my life. So in 2011, I was in a bicycle accident where while I'm laying on the ground, the paramedic said to me, if you were any other person, you'd be dead right now. While I'm still on the ground, not even in the ambulance yet. Mm-hmm. So that phrase haunted me for years. And I developed PTSD and, of course, depression again, anxiety again from that accident. I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't dress myself. I couldn't use the bathroom myself. It was bad. But that was the wake-up call that I needed that said, hey, you said you had all these dreams. Why aren't you going after those dreams? You're settling. So I was in what I called a false happiness. I was happy, I liked what I was doing, yes, but I still felt empty. I felt like something was missing and like I wasn't being me. So in 2014, when I was laid off, I tried to get other jobs. People were like, hey, come work for us. Come apply for our job. I get every single one. But yet the work wasn't there. So I said, fine, this is the universe saying to go do my dream. And I don't exactly know what that means and what that looks like, but I have to do it anyway. Wow. So I started my business. Yeah.
So adversity was your wake-up call in life, which actually led you to getting into this career.
Yes.
Okay.
It really was the bike accident. I thought that I knew enough about health to recover myself. I didn't need any help. I'm an independent woman. All of those belief systems that one can have. Okay. But I didn't realize just how much mental health played a role in everything that we do.
Right.
Everything.
Right. Yeah. And how particularly did you suffer in this accident? What did you lose out in this accident, particularly with respect to your body?
So I avoided an SUV and hit a telephone pole instead. Oh. And in my mind, I did the calculations of what are my chances of living, what is all the math and physics that's going to play out so that I don't die. Because I had a 17-month-old at home. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching this SUV back up in front of me, and I see this telephone pole. I'm like 1 degree, turning my bike too much, and I hit the SUV, fall over my bike and under the SUV. She's going to back over me and run over me again. Not cool. Instant death. Cool. My daughter needs a mom. Okay, 1 degree, not enough, and I'm going to go straight for that telephone pole. Hit my head. Again, daughter doesn't have a mother. Not cool. Can't do that. So in my mind, I'm like, if I can get my bike in that perfect alignment to still hit the curb and fall beyond the telephone pole, I'll be scraped up, but I'll be fine. Right. But I cannot turn too much. Right. So what ended up happening is I knew all this was coming, and I didn't quite make it to go past the pole. So I was going to hit the pole. I dove off my bike. I'm literally sideways in the air, and I hit the telephone pole across both knees. But the number one goal was to not hit my head, which I accomplished.
That is so of a planned accident, I suppose.
Sorry?
Such a planned accident, it seems like. Yeah. And how much time did you take to recover fully? How much time to fully recover from this?
I went back to work after 6 days, not because I should have, but because I wanted to. I had 2 crutches and a box with a pillow underneath my desk, a string attached to my leg so I could lift it, and a friend of mine at work that would not quite carry me, but help me to the bathroom.
Okay.
And back. Once I could use the bathroom by myself, I went back to work. So my husband dressed me every morning. He carried me up the stairs to work, put me in my chair, and then my friend at work would help me go use the bathroom throughout the day.
Right. So did you learn from this adversity about certain people in your life that who are actually really there in your life? Who are your support system?
Different people supported in the ways that they could support me. So I didn't actually tell a lot of people, only the people who needed to know. So my doctors knew, and there were countless of those. My immediate family knew, and that was about it. I didn't share it with many other people.
Okay. Yeah.
Even the people at work were extremely supportive. They're like, whatever you need, I don't know why you're here, but if this is what you feel you need, you just get to be at your desk all day.
Right.
Okay. That worked.
So once you fully recovered and you came to know about your life purpose, how did you go on towards chasing that dream? What did you do in the beginning? How did you start with that dream?
So one of the catalysts that helped me heal mentally and physically was mindfulness. Mindfulness is so powerful. It gave me that different perspective on both the accident and my pain. So I had chronic pain for 3 years, and I cured it with mindfulness because it was the emotional tension that I wasn't relieving out of my body. Instead, I just stored it. And I was so tight all the time. Everybody remembers this day in mindfulness class. My baby finger on my left hand let go. And it was beautiful, and I cried. People were like, what's going on? That tension for the first time in 3 years let go. And slowly, the rest of my body did the same thing.
Right.
So that was one of the main things. Yeah.
So for our viewers, if you want to explain mindfulness in a sentence or two, how do they understand what is mindfulness?
So mindfulness Mindfulness is the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. So it's not saying that we're trying to get rid of the thoughts in our mind. We're just acknowledging them like a little kid who's trying to get your attention, saying, yes, I see you. But then we're not engaging with it. We're being curious about it. We're just being the observer. So we let them pass. That's all mindfulness is.
So how do you actually...
So all of...
Yes, please tell me.
Yeah. So all of these triggers and these emotional responses that came up because of the accident, instead of holding on to them and going back into that emotion and letting that emotion take over my entire body, I said, yes, I see you. But I'm going to move on. I'm not going to engage. Okay, yes, you came up again. I see you. Yeah, I hear you. But I'm going to disengage. And eventually that practice just helped me not engage in those triggers.
So suppose a person who has chronic pain, okay, the pain is already there and that person is suffering from that pain. What if this person tries to practice mindfulness? Will the pain go away? Will the sensation of the pain go away? Or will the person be more, have acceptance about pain? How does it go about? Do you start loving your pain like you have an affair with your pain?
Anything. Sorry?
Do you start having an affair with your pain? Make them your boyfriend or your girlfriend in mindfulness?
No. Chronic pain is caused by many different things. But if there is an emotional aspect to it, which is exactly what mine was. Mine was all emotional tension, which I don't want to generalize too much, but a lot of the chronic pain that people do have that emotional portion to it. That is what we can heal with mindfulness. What it does is it just changes our relationship to the pain, not the pain itself. So when I was allowing that emotion to release, that tension was no longer there. And because that emotional tension was causing my pain, that's why it was healed. My mom has something called fibromyalgia, and so does my dad. So they're both in chronic pain constantly. That is actually a nervous system issue, which has an emotional component. So I've helped my mom a little bit deal with that emotional component, and her pain is less, but it's not gone.
Right. I think
but if she remembers to practice,
anxiety are linked to each other. Fibromyalgia and anxiety are linked with each other.
They're still doing a lot of studies. A lot of people believe that fibromyalgia is a muscle disease, and the muscle symptoms are just that. They're a symptom of the nervous system because it's the overactive nervous system.
Overactive, yes. Sensitive nervous system.
Yeah. So sometimes they'll get crawling sensations or tingling. Each person expresses it differently, but again, it's the nervous system state.
I am also the one with a sensitive nervous system.
Oh, yes.
Sensitive nervous system, and I would say oversensitive senses. All the senses like my smell and ears and touch, everything is more sensitive. Even taste is more sensitive. And mostly my fight and flight response is all the time on. It's mostly on.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've been working with, have you heard of the vagus nerve?
I think recently, 2 days back, I heard a seminar with Mind Valley about the same, right? They are starting a series, I think, Mind Valley.
Are they?
Yes.
So the vagus nerve, for people who don't know, is one of the 10 main nerves that go from the back of your head all the way down to the bottom of your pelvis. And it is the thing that helps turn on and off our stress response, or the fight, flight, and freeze response. So there are different practices that help stimulate this nerve that will help you come out of that stress response. So I've done things like TRE, which is trauma-reducing exercises, which give you that physical movement that'll help stimulate. But I've also come up with my own series of exercises that help you stimulate the nervous system. And I explain it like this. Have you ever had a braid in your hair and you try to take it out from the top,
Yes.
and it just gets stuck.
Yes.
Well, if you take it out from the bottom, it comes out easily.
Yes.
So that's what we do with the nerve. Is we start at the bottom and we create just the vibrations in the nerve from the bottom up, right up to our skull, and it helps us without having to go into our trauma, come out of stress response.
So this vagus nerve is also associated with lot of stomach disorders. Is that so? Yes. IBS and some other issues.
Yep, because it feeds into a lot of our major organs.
Right. I have seen people like the ancestors trying to maybe settle the vagus nerve with maybe using suction or something. Do they use suction?
Oh, that's an interesting perspective. I'll have to look at exactly what those suction cups do. I know that they bring blood to different areas, but they may, in fact, depending on where they are, stimulate different parts of the vagus nerve. Yes. That's interesting.
Okay, so moving next to actually explaining what you really do precisely. Okay, so suppose you are at your place, at your office, and what kinds of client do actually call you up? What is the call like? Okay.
So I love to work with people who feel as though they're stuck, that they're stopping themselves. And yes, there are a lot of people who feel that and a lot of coaches who work with that. But I want the people who are stuck and know that they're dealing with some sort of mental health struggle, whether it's depression, anxiety, or especially PTSD. I also love working with the people who are skeptical that they even have trauma. Because trauma is just patterns of stress.
Right.
In its simplistic forms, that's what it is. Can you think of a time, especially in your childhood, where you were stressed, or where you had a stressful situation, or where your needs weren't met? That's where I come in and I go, okay, let's heal the root cause of why you have the beliefs that you have, why you have the feelings that you have, and why you take the actions that you do. And then we'll get clear on everything else in your business and say, okay, now that you've healed you, you can finally take you into your business and apply yourself and show up the way that you need to.
Right. So there are childhood patterns which keep on repeating in life and then they show up somewhere in the adulthood. Right. So I want to actually talk about when psychologists describe psychological disorders, they often associate it with a major chunk of it with genetics also. Okay, so there is, if someone in the family has disorders, then it gets carry forward. Okay, second is an aggravating or trigger event. Okay, even if it is in the genetics, it requires a certain trigger or an event to take place. Okay, now the third is the theory of neurochemicals. Okay, how do you incorporate this theory of neurochemicals with your clients? Do you take up this conversation with them, and what is your say about neurochemicals? Like, are they actually impacting the person's mental health, or is the mental health affecting the release of neurochemicals?
It goes both ways. I heard most of that, so I'm going to try my best. Our present moment and our plans for the future do affect how we view the past, but our past dictates how we view the future as well. So instead of just dealing with triggers, and this is what most people want to do, is they're like, oh, okay, so ambulance triggers me because it'll make me cry because of the accident. An SUV, same make and model and color, will trigger me. Okay, right? We have those kinds of things. But if I just deal with those, the emotions still come up. The patterns still come up and the beliefs are not changing. If I go back to that event, I can heal that event. But then if I go back even further, why did that event cause me to have PTSD in the first place? Right? So now we're going back even further and saying, okay, what were the emotions that came up from this more recent event that brought me back to a place in my childhood or before where my needs weren't met?
Right.
So that accident for me made me feel helpless. And so I'm thinking, okay, when was the first time that I felt helpless? Okay. And it wasn't actually in my lifetime. So this tension, right, when we don't express emotions, gets held physically in our body. And when it's held physically, it changes the expression of our genes. Right. And that can be passed on through generations. So I may heal my own trauma, but what about my mom's trauma? Yes. What about her mom's trauma? What about all the generations back where all of that DNA is inside of me?
Yes. True. So, so at this point, do you work with the entire family or the members, or you deal with the person alone who has been to you? Do you include the family members?
A lot of that kind of. Do I what?
Do you include the family members of your client also in the healing process?
No. Okay. Because it's your perception. Yes. Of that event or of that family member, of that feeling. Even when we go back to generational issues, it has nothing to do with whether or not the story that pops into your mind is true or not. It's just our subconscious way of working through it. So one of my emotions was abandonment. Right? We all have some form of abandonment in there. Yes. My abandonment came up 13 generations ago. And what had happened was I found this little boy in a field, and he didn't know that he was dead. And I was talking to his ghost. Now, whether the story was real or not doesn't matter, but it's how my mind helped me process it. And because I went through that whole experience, I have healed the physical abandonment. Not the emotional abandonment yet. I'm still working on that one. That's my next step.
Right. Yeah. So, do you also get clients who have already been to psychiatrist, taken medications, and they have been labeled, okay, usually they have been labeled as, okay, this particular disorder or this is an anxiety disorder or an depression. Do you get clients like that also?
Not as often, but yes, I love to work with them as well. Because I worked with a psychologist for 3 years. I also was on medication, right? Like I understand what that situation and experience is like. But I love working with people who don't even know that there's a trauma issue.
Right.
Just feel stuck and they feel depressed. Or they identify as depressed or anxious, but yet not necessarily described by a doctor as depressed.
Right.
Or LakeSD, yeah.
Okay. So,
because it's not about the medical label. It's about how you feel about it.
Right. So, I wanted to ask you that whenever people have been through psychiatrist and they have a particular disorder in place and they are taking medications, okay, do these people kind of find themselves not trusting their belief system or not having enough trust on themselves or not having that faith that we will be able to do a change because the disorder is controlling us? The disorder is actually taking up my life. So I am not in control of my life. Does that happen?
That does happen. And I will say that most people have self-trust issues. Because we're constantly following other people's expectations instead of our own. If we're not honoring what we say that we value and what we say is a priority, then we're proving to ourselves time and time again that we can't trust our own words, that we can't trust our own beliefs and our own actions. So once we start saying, okay, what are my values? What is a priority? Who am I as a person? And write that down, like actually write it down. And then look at it and say, is this action or are my actions in general honoring that? If it's not, we need to change it. If it is, that's just proof that says, I can trust myself and I matter.
Right.
So if we keep practicing those actions, we will build that self-trust, whether we see a psychologist or not. Everybody should do this.
Right. So self-work is always important. We should be constantly working on our own self.
Always.
All the time. Whether it's physically taking care of our health or appreciating ourselves or maybe even buying something for ourselves, gifting something to ourselves, pampering our own self. Everything is important before it comes from someone externally. Yes. Yes. True. Okay. So
What I'm teaching people right now is that if you want to love somebody, you have to love you.
yes.
If you want to be able to support somebody, you have to support yourself.
Right.
If you don't know how to do it for you, how can you teach that to somebody else?
Right. Very true. Okay. So three things which you learned from your life as of now, because we are going to learn all our lives from life. Okay. So three things which you learned from life, three lessons, okay, which you always hold on to, which you want to share with the viewers. Three lessons in life learned till now.
So the first lesson is, oh my God, girl, get boundaries. I didn't have well-established boundaries for a while. So I was letting people in and out, and I was wondering why I was feeling bad. Get boundaries. Practice honoring those boundaries.
Like be conscious of your choices. Be selective about who you let you be with. Okay. Be selective about people entering your lives. The first is selection, conscious selection, right?
Yes.
Okay. Second.
And then number two. Sorry?
Number two, yes.
Yeah. So number two is putting myself first is not selfish
Yes.
at all. By putting myself first, that just means that I'm taking care of myself so that I can take care of others.
True. Okay.
That is so important. I used to put everybody before me and wondering why I had no energy left. And then the quality of time and energy that I spent with other people just kept dwindling.
Right.
Okay. And that's not fun.
Yes. Yeah. So I just want to add up here. This usually happens in relationships, usually couple relationships and in marriages. Okay. So is your partner, I would say, conscious enough to understand your choices and your boundaries, or did you have difficulty in explaining him these things?
Well, we grew up together.
Okay.
I've been with my husband since I was 14. Wow. So we did a lot of development together. But in the last few years, I have grown so much. And he's still used to the old version of me.
Yes, yes.
With the trauma. So now that I am trusting myself a lot more, putting myself first a lot more, right. There is an adjustment phase. Right. And it's not easy, but we're working through it.
Yes, yes. Because sometimes people do take us in the wrong way, and they feel like maybe we are acting out of ego, or maybe we are thinking too much of ourselves when we actually start working on our own selves.
Right. But if I want my husband to support me, right, I need to support myself, and I didn't learn those things. I was constantly seeking love, affection, support, appreciation, validation. Everything that we say that we want, yes. I was not giving myself.
Right, right.
And now that I've learned to do that, it's also taken a burden off of him and the people around me.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, one more add-on. Some people, they are doing so much in their life. They are working hard on their bodies. They are exercising every day. They are having good diets. They are pursuing their goals. They are earning money. But sometimes I have seen that these people are doing this only to prove their point to some people. They want to get that constant approval, constant validation. They are doing. See, there is self-work. There is self-love. But in fact, when they don't get appreciated by some other person, when they are doing all this thing, they stop whatever they are doing.
Yeah, intention is very important.
Intention is very important.
If you're doing something for somebody else, you're placing your value in that other person.
Right.
So value does not come from outside of ourselves.
Right.
Value has to come from inside of ourselves. Yes. Or when we lose that thing, we lose our value.
Yes, that is called value degradation.
Yeah.
And values are constantly upgraded and degraded and modified all the time. Okay, there are only very few people which see again. Your values 10 years from now were different. Now they are different. But it is important to stick to what is your current value set. It is always best to stick to them.
Definitely.
Yes. Yes.
It's that constant self-reflection to go, who am I right now?
Yes.
Who do I want to be?
Yes.
How do I have to shift to get to that person?
Right.
And what do I need to practice right now to get there?
True.
And that constant reflection will constantly like micro shift your direction to get you where you need to go.
Yes. And so number 3.
Number 3 is to learn to trust yourself.
Wow.
Please just trust yourself. If you trust yourself, you will take risks. If you trust yourself, you will take the actions. So a lot of times people will say, I'm not ready. You're never going to be ready.
Yes.
You just have to trust that no matter what happens, you will figure it out.
No one is ever ready to bungee jump.
I would love to try. I'd still be scared, but I would try.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to add on here when you say that trust yourself. Okay. Some people, they feel like trusting yourself is a gradual, we could say it's a gradual journey. When you start doing things, you start maybe achieving something, you start performing, and then it makes up in your subconscious mind that yes, I can't do. How do we go about doing something which we have never done, never experienced, and still trusting ourselves in doing that thing? No prior experience, but I want to trust myself.
So I love that you worded it that way. Trust, just like value, comes from inside of who we are, not what we do.
Okay.
They're different. Like you can still get value and trust in the things that we do, but if you don't have it inside first, it can be taken away easily, right? So trusting your character, trusting your personality, trusting you as a human being to say, when I'm in these types of situations, this is how I handle myself.
True.
I am a playful person. I trust that I will always be a playful person.
Yes.
Right. So when I'm put into a situation that may make me nervous or scared or it's new, I know and I can trust that there'll always be that playful factor that comes in.
Yes.
So take all of the traits that you feel that you are and all of your personality and know that if you're going to go bungee jumping, I'm going to make it a playful experience. I'm going to be curious about it because I'm constantly curious.
Yes.
Right?
Okay. Does most of the fear...
So trusting in who you are.
Yes. So does most of the fear of the uncertain come from the fact that we are not owning up to our value system or not doing justice to our value system?
Some of it, yeah. Some of it is just our survival instinct.
Yes.
It says, danger, bungee jumping means that you will fall.
That's what I said, not doing justice to our value system, because always, constantly, we know that we have spent a certain amount of our lifetime. So maybe for someone it's like, for me it's 33 years, for you it's something. So we know that we are on this planet for some more time. And we always know that what we are doing right or wrong for ourselves. And when we know that, okay, this is a risk which could end my life, it means I don't have enough time to complete or correct my life. Does it come from there?
Yes, it can come from there.
So it's like
that's when we start to try to control certain parts. And some of that control would mean that I hire a bungee jump instructor that comes highly recommended with training and shows me that I will be safe.
See an example. Right? Example of yes, please. Yes.
That's it.
Okay. So an example of a soldier, okay, who is always on war for his country, okay. He is ready to die any single day. Why? Because he is doing justice to his life purpose. Most of the fear maybe comes from not doing justice to the life purpose. The fear of death also, I think, comes from the same fact.
There's the life purpose. There is knowing that you've done what you wanted to do. There's so many factors that are individual.
Right.
In that area.
Right. So we would also like take care of the time. It's like quite a less time left. Okay. 3 things. It is different for everyone what to do, what not to do. There is no right, no wrong. There are just consequences of your actions. 3 things which you want that every person should avoid in their life. Generalize, should avoid. Anything, 3 particular things, mistakes to avoid.
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one. Allowing yourself to choose things, any sort of thing that does not serve you. And what I mean by that is, think of a job. My husband likes to explain it in 3 ways. There's the people at a job, there's the pay, and there's the work.
Yes.
Our rule of thumb is if you don't like at least 2 of those, why are you even there? Right. Because they're serving some of your basic needs, maybe not all of them. So if you're in a job where you've got good pay, but the work is crap and the people are crap, don't stay. It's going to drain you more than it adds value to your life.
Yes.
But if it's got great pay and you love the work, but the people suck, then you can handle it enough.
Manageable. Still manageable.
Yeah. To take that step back and go, should I continue with this or should I go at a different path? But that's what we call the safe zone.
I think inner critic is more dangerous than external critic.
Sorry?
The inner critic is more dangerous than the external critic.
Yes.
Okay. Number 2, what to avoid in life?
Okay, number 2. Avoid using so many labels. We put labels on everything. And what that does is it limits our perspective of what it can be.
Yes.
So if you're saying, I am a playful and curious person, that's what I'm labeling myself as.
Yes.
If I'm constantly using those things and nothing else, then I put myself in a box. This is what I call box thinking. So we label it and we file it away in boxes.
Yes.
None of those boxes touch. The boxes hardly ever come out.
Yes.
But instead, what I want people to do is have that label, but don't.
With possibilities. Like keep it like infinite possibilities.
Yeah, yes. Because I'm mostly playful doesn't mean that I'm always playful.
Yes.
I can be very serious.
Yes.
I can be very open. Right? So when we're labeling, especially kids or people as toxic,
yes.
It's not the person that is toxic. It's the situation or what's happening.
The reaction to that situation was toxic on a particular day, at a particular time, for that moment. Okay.
Exactly.
Right. And also,
so just relax on those labels.
Yes.
I'm going to help you.
Yes.
But don't keep everything boxed in.
Yes.
Let it flow.
Yes. So if we talk about spirituality also, does labeling situations and ourselves, does it also stop us from receiving?
I heard most of that. I missed the last part.
Okay. Does labeling part, does it also stop ourselves from receiving from the universe? Does it stop?
I believe it does. Because if you're open to opportunities, you want your perspective to be really wide. You want to catch it all, right? Like a funnel. But if you're labeling, you narrow that vision. And sometimes it's too much.
Right.
So my friend and I have this theory that we call eagle vision. Yes. And what an eagle does is the eagle soars with the big picture. And then it pinpoints what it wants. And then it narrows in and goes in and gets it. But it doesn't stay there. It comes right back to the big picture. So that's what we want people to do, is we want people to have that big picture view, to catch everything. And you can narrow your focus and focus on what you want, then you can go for it. And then you come back and get your big picture focus again.
Right. So there is a modality which is called access bars, if you must have heard. So there is a terminology used in it. It's called, how does it get better than this? So whenever two people are conversing, they will use this and they will try to get out something more from the conversation.
That's what they say in a lot of sales training too.
Yes.
People will come back to you saying, oh, I can't afford that. And oh, I can't do that. Instead, ask yourself, how can I afford that?
Yes.
How can I do that? And instead, of closing your mind, it opens it up.
Yes. Asking the right questions will give the right answers.
Yeah.
Yes. Number 3.
Ooh, these are hard. Number 3, avoid putting yourself down. Because our mind does not know the difference between what we think is happening and what is actually happening. So if we're constantly telling ourselves, oh my God, I'm so stupid for doing that, I'm the worst, I'm dumb, I'm ugly, anything that you can think of, your mind takes that as truth. And so if you keep those patterns going, you're developing those habits and those beliefs from those habits.
Right.
Do you really want to believe that you're stupid and ugly? No. You want to believe something different. So even if you try, what are they called? I can't think of the word right now. The sentences, mantras, where you say them over and over, or affirmations.
Some people want to gain sympathy by saying, "Oh, I'm so foolish," or maybe I'm not a good person, or maybe they want people to say the other way around, but it never happens.
That's trying to get validation and support from other people instead of giving it to themselves.
Yes.
Oh, yes, I said it. Okay. So, what was I speaking on? Okay. The thoughts, saying...
Mind cannot differentiate between what is happening and what is it thinking. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So when we choose... Even if those thoughts come up, it's okay. Just say, about the mantras and affirmations. If you don't believe those mantras or affirmations at all, you're not going to change your mind.
Yes.
So a friend of mine gave us a wonderful way to start those off. Just say, I'd like to think that I'm beautiful.
Wow.
I'd like to think that I'm smart. And now, instead of your mind automatically blocking those thoughts, you've opened it up, and it's truth. Yeah, I would like to think that I'm beautiful, and I would like to think that I'm.
Yes, very nice. This I will use this for myself too. Yes. Okay, so I want to ask you, guilt or no guilt? Is guilt good for you, bad for you, or what could be a better response to a mistake or an error?
Is what good or bad for you?
Guilt.
Oh, guilt. Oh. That's a harder question. A little bit of guilt, if used in the right way, can be a good thing. But it's not something that we should start with. As Brendan Burchard explains, if you're trying to motivate yourself to do something, always start with desire. And try your hardest. Align everything with the best that you know how. And keep practicing. And if none of that practicing is changing or shifting, then you may have to bring in the guilt and accountability of a partner.
Right.
Just to get you started.
Right.
Then refocus on the desire. But other than that, I don't believe that guilt is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
No, it's not really that helpful.
Okay, so how should one maybe create a line or a divide between one is not feeling guilty, okay, at all, complete acceptance of what I did, not kind of belittling myself and just moving ahead. One is this. Second is not feeling guilty, okay, and not being hard on myself and forgiving myself completely and then again getting into the loop. How does one differentiate? when we talk about addictive behaviors, people who are in addictive behaviors, they can misuse not being guilty, not feeling guilty. It's possible for them to misuse this, that I don't feel guilty, I completely forgive myself, but they never change their ways at all. How does one try to work in this context?
I'm not super familiar with addictions, but what I can say is that, yeah, we've all done things that we're not proud of, but I come at it from a different angle. If I'm feeling guilty, or I should be feeling guilty about something, I think to myself, was that action fulfilling a need? And if that action was fulfilling a need, there is no reason that I should be feeling guilty. Because at the root, it's me seeking in whatever way that happened at that point in time to fulfill that need.
Even
Fulfilling a need is never selfish.
Filling the need is okay, even if it's temporarily filling the void.
Yes. Yeah. But the difference here is that how you've decided to fill that need may be the point of guilt.
Yes.
Right? So never feel guilty about fulfilling a need. The guilt should be around the action that you took. So remember, you're not guilt. The action is the guilt.
Yes, yes. True. So just if after guilt, you can just
think of all of the emotions that came up.
Yes, please.
Sorry?
I'm hearing you.
So the actions that we took, what are the emotions that came up, or what was the frame of mind that made you take that action? So heal the emotions around the action that caused the guilt. So if there was fear in there, if there was sadness, if there was something, whatever came up for you, abandonment, right? All of these things. Heal those emotions. And then make that plan and say, okay, what caused me to feel these things that led me to take the action?
Yes.
So then you're forgiving yourself and saying, okay, just because this wasn't right doesn't mean that I need to spend the rest of my life putting energy into this.
Yes.
All you're saying with forgiveness is, I'm done putting in energy.
Right. Yeah. True. So we are moving towards the end. Like 1 or 2 questions are just left. Okay. Share with me one of your more challenging clients. Okay, what was the issue of that client? How was it challenging, and how was your approach to that issue?
So it's challenging when you have a client that isn't invested. So if they won a contest, or if they didn't pay money or didn't pay the full value, right, then mentally they're already half checked out.
Yes.
And then when you get a client that is skeptical on top of not putting in an investment, it gets even worse. And then on top of that, when they're not, I don't want to use the word ready, if they're not open to changing, it makes the whole process pretty much null and void.
Yes, yes. If they are still in their comfort zone.
One of my first clients was that.
Still in their comfort zone and want to be in the comfort zone.
Yeah. Yes. It's very, very difficult. Because I can pour my heart and soul into this person, and it just falls to the floor. There's nothing that attaches. There's no forward momentum that happens.
There is so much to talk to you. I could go on for hours, okay? So, but we also have to keep the time constant. We could also connect at another day. So my last question would be about, because relationship has been my specialization and I have most of the clients with respect to relationships. Any guidance for the viewers with respect to relationships? What guidance do you want people with respect to relationships? It could be from your personal experience, from your clients.
Oh, I have some recommendations. The thing that you want from your partner, give it to them first.
Yes. Yes.
So if you're wanting your partner to say, I love you so much, that validation, that feeling of being loved.
Yes. Yes.
How do they want to feel loved? And then do that for them.
Yes.
Because when they feel loved, they're willing to give the love.
Yes.
So every time we get into this rut and we're like, I don't feel loved right now. Why can't my husband or my wife or my partner just love me?
Yes. Yes.
Well, do they feel loved?
Right.
And if you think that they don't feel loved, or even if they do feel loved, how do they like to be shown that they're loved? And then practice that for them.
Right. So first fill up the other person and then drink from them.
Yeah. So when we feel low, we have to go that little bit lower to come back up. Yes. That's what it feels like. Yes. When you're wanting something, you have to give something.
Yes. Yes. Very true. Okay, something on your.
That's how we teach our partner to treat us.
Yeah.
We have to teach them.
Yes. Yes. Something which you want to add on. I don't ask you anything. Anything which you want to add on from your heart. Anything in this session. Anything which you feel like sharing.
This is the theme that's coming up.
Any wisdom which I can get from you, which can benefit my life as well. Any special wisdom.
Yes. So the theme that's coming up in a lot of my conversations is that, especially in business, we have fear of failure. We have fear of success. We have all these fears. And one of the core root fears of all of those is the fear of our own power. And we fear it because we feel as though if we had that power, that at some point we could hurt somebody.
Yes.
And so we pull away.
Right.
So hurt people, trauma, right? All that kind of stuff. Hurt people can hurt people. But yet healed people heal people.
Yes, yes, yes. I want to add on something here.
Hurt people can.
Yes, yes. Hurt people can hurt people. I would actually apply this to most of the faulty parenting techniques whenever there has been a dysfunctional family where the parenting has not been good. And when I have actually inquired with the mother, the father, even the grandfather, I have seen that going on in themselves. The fears are a part of the mother, and then it comes in the daughter as well, and then it comes on in her career, in her achievements, everywhere. So hurt people will hurt people. Very true.
They can, yeah. They don't necessarily do it, but they can.
Yes.
So if we just want to not be afraid of our power so that we can do good, heal yourself, right? Heal that trauma that's making you feel as though your needs aren't met, that you can't perform.
Yes. Some hurt people also become revolutionaries and uplifting the other people. So many people who do so much of good work in their life have actually come from adversities. They do not want others to suffer, and then they want to do. And maybe Laura is also one of such kind, right?
I am indeed.
Yes. So should we, it's like 53 minutes into the session, should we wind up for today? So that you also have your, should we wind up the session for today?
I didn't hear you. What?
Okay, should we end this session for today? Because then we can have more sessions in future.
Yes, we should. I have a meeting in a few minutes. So.
Okay. So, friends, thank you for being there in this session with Laura Lake, and you heard her wisdom, her life experiences, and how does she take clients for life coaching. In the description box, I will also add her details, her Facebook, Instagram IDs, the way to contact her if you are anywhere next to her or could take an online session. So again, we will meet in another interesting session of life.